Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Aussie StarCraft, where we're pleased to be bringing you some more games from MLG's awesome Game On tournament that was hosted recently. Today we're casting some games from Day 3, or Group C of the tournament. This is the group that contains Vibe, Minigun, Desrow and QXE. This particular game, it's a best of 3 series between our Golden Protoss in the bottom right hand corner, Desrow, and our Red Zerg in the top left hand corner, Roots Vibe. So Vibe, pretty well known here on the channel. We've certainly cast a few games of his in the past, and fairly well known as a great American Zerg player. The bottom right hand corner, Desrow. Well, Desrow is his debut here on the channel, but Desrow pretty well known as a very active streamer, more so than any particular tournament results, but certainly streams a lot and has been playing various esports games from Warcraft 3 through Brood War, even had a bit of a crack at Dota 2 and some of the other titles, so certainly a varied range of experience, and currently competitively playing Starcraft 2, or Heart of the Swarm, so pretty excited to see what Desrow has in store for us. And the map is of course Frost, so very large map, particularly on a cross-spawn location. This can develop into a fairly lengthy game, just naturally by virtue of the fact that you have 3 relatively easy to secure expansions. Your opponent likewise has 3 expansions, and you can expand either towards your opponent or away from. Of course, the map is exceptionally large, so it does make it quite hard to secure beyond the 3rd expansion. This game tends to cap off a lot earlier than, say, games on Whirlwind that had a much easier to defend expansions. The travel time between this base and the base above it is actually quite significant, either around and over this bridge or back through the center of the map. So you tend to see this map play out on 3 or 4 bases, just because of the difficulty of securing additional bases. Of course, there are exceptions to that. We have seen some phenomenally long and epic macro games here on Frost. So excited to see what Vibe and Desrow have in store for us today. Of course, Vibe's gone for his pool before hatch, so nice sort of cautious opening from Vibe. And just actually noticing there's this spinning decal here. That must be unique to this map set. That's pretty neat. I really like all the sponsorship logos and team logos that you see on some of these tournament maps. I think it's awesome. It's certainly very beneficial to the community and esports in general. As soon as sponsors can get involved in the game, I think it's going to have a very what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to have a very enlarging effect on both the community and the player base in general. Certainly, sponsorship does make it a lot more viable for players to dedicate time to playing. And yeah, I think the more of this we see in StarCraft, the better it will be. Of course, we don't want it to be like the football and have a sponsor on every inch of the tile set, but certainly I think a little bit of it is a great way of sort of enlarging the scope and revenue model for these gamers. The Vibe got his expansion up and running now. It looks like Desrow is actually going with a Stargate opening, and where has he tucked that Stargate away? Looks like it's going to be tucked away safely behind his mineral line, so we've got the Stargate on the way, his own Nexus coming up down at the natural expansion. 2 gateways going to be completing the wall off there. So there's going to be 3-gate Stargate play, which is a fairly well-known sort of opening for Protoss. Gives you a lot of flexibility and go for things like oracles, which are a little rarer for their harass against Zerg, but not unknown, certainly very useful. But more commonly you see some sort of Phoenix play out of the Protoss player, mainly because it prevents the Zerg player going for the much more irritating Mutalisk play. Protoss particularly struggle to deal with the heavy Mutalisk transition that you often see out of a Zerg player, particularly players like Jadong have been known to abuse that transition incredibly against Protoss players. So having the Phoenix in the field certainly helps mitigate that. Also provides some great scouting and allows you to pick off a few of these early overlords, and we can see that Desrow has already rallied these along the flanks of the map, so he's pretty easily going to pick up 2 of these overlord kills for free, and that's 200 free resources, but more importantly it's going to completely remove the scouting for Root Vibe, so very important. And nice little pickups along here. See the Phoenix going to pick up this overlord straight away, and that's that's gonna allow Desrow to have freedom to tech up and expand as necessary until such a point in time that Vibe actually sends a few more units across the map. So nice little pickups there for Desrow. Of course, this game is a best of 3 series. I don't know if I mentioned this is actually game 3 in the series, so this is the decider. Whichever player takes this match will take the series. I would have liked to have cast the whole series, but in the interest of giving a greater spectrum of players that are competing, I decided we'd just cherry pick a few of the tiebreaker games out of day 3, because there's certainly some excellent games in the series, and the other games that we've seen thus far have been no exception to that. These Phoenix are going to get chased off by the Spore Crawler here at the expansion, but they're going to continue to get their scout on. They could easily pick away a worker or two at this base if they so decide. Actually, choosing to go for a queen is a little bit riskier choice. 3 Phoenix can't kill a queen in one pickup. They certainly could pick it up again, and looks like Desrow is going to elect to do that. 4th Phoenix now joining in the group, and that's going to allow them to pick up quite a few of these workers. They do have to be very careful of the Spore Crawler, but these 4 Phoenix certainly starting to rack in quite a few kills. The Queen actually taking refuge by the Spore Crawler, and the Phoenix starting to take a lot of damage from that. Nice micro though from Desrow is going to allow him to pick up another. Actually got 5 Phoenix on the field. Now there's one more than you'd ordinarily see, but perhaps justified for Desrow as he's done quite a bit of damage with this. If we look at the units lost tab, he's already racked up 800, which is a substantial investment towards what it's cost him to build the 5 Phoenix. Additionally, he's teching the Colossi behind us, just in case he does see a big horde of Hydralisks. A few roaches here going to be trying to threaten the expansion, but the Mothership Core is going to be raining some fire down those. These sentries actually have to be very careful that the roaches don't just get straight on top of them as they have here. A few force fields going to be trying to catch these roaches, and it looks like they'll be able to force those around. Surprised that we didn't see a little bit more damage done by the roaches on the sentries themselves, but perhaps Vibe was focusing on some of the issues he was having at home. Looks like we have quite a swell of what's soon to be tunneling roaches on the field. So 14 roaches coming up, and the tunneling claws finish up as well. And we actually haven't seen clever roach burrow play in quite some time, so pretty excited to see this. Vibe could potentially burrow these and hide them from Desrow total, but it looks like he doesn't want to give away the fact that he can in fact burrow. We have these roaches actually. Regardless of the fact they've got tunneling claws. Yep, there we go. So finally going to be burrowing there. That allows them to move in. Unfortunately, unable to get on top of this Colossus. The cannon going to be able to detect the burrowed roaches, but at least the burrow does allow them to bypass things like the force field and make their way into this expansion. Roaches starting to do quite a lot of damage in the mineral line of Desrow. Unfortunately for Vibe, nice Colossus micro is going to allow him to pick off a lot of these roaches, actually force them back, so that burrow play not doing quite as much damage as it perhaps could have. These Phoenix certainly are starting to earn their keep. They're up to a combined total of about 12 kills. Roaches, however, deciding to make a play for this third base. Mothership Core is going to photon overcharge, and between the Colossus and the Phoenix it should be enough to force these roaches away, though plenty more streaming across the field. We have a combined total of 25 roaches on the field, which is quite a significant investment for Vibe. Vibe has to be very careful here. If he loses these roaches for no exchange, he's going to be very vulnerable to a Protoss counterattack. We've actually got quite a sizable force here, the Colossus and the 2 Immortal already in play. These roaches need to do a lot of damage here. Unfortunately, the Colossus is going to be able to sit well out of range of the roaches, and the roaches not. It seems like they're struggling to make a decision between attacking the Nexus and trying to attack workers. Roaches here going to get picked up on the ramp. The Observer allowing plenty of vision of those, and unfortunately not doing perhaps the damage that he would have liked. 5,000 resources lost to 2,500. Normally the Zerg's in a position to trade fairly unfavourably and still come out ahead, but if you check out the base count, it does look like the third base did in fact go down, so we have Vibe with a base advantage. Actually 2 additional bases either on the way or starting to mine now, so Vibe actually going power mode expanding here and going to be flooding plenty more units out, and Vibe's goal at this point in time is just to keep Desrow on his side of the field. If Desrow was to be able to move out with his force, it would be a significant issue for Vibe, particularly because of the tech difference between the units in Desrow's composition and the units in Vibe's composition. As you can see, if we check out the units tab, we've got Colossi, Immortal, Void Ray, Phoenix versus a few Roaches and Zerglings. So, and a couple of Mulus. This Mulus transition, very common from Zerg players, but I can't help but feeling that it's perhaps poorly timed from Vibe, given we already have 5 Phoenix in the field. And Desrow's shown he's very capable of microing these Phoenix very well, and he's certainly picked off a lot of Zerg units thus far. But if Vibe can use these to delay or deter our Protoss player, it's certainly going to work in Vibe's favour. He's got a nice static defense line established in front of his base. That'll buy him time if he does lose his army. It'll buy him a few moments to try and re-max, and that's certainly the strategy you tend to see employed from a Zerg player that has this sort of macro advantage. We have only the gas mining on the 4th and 5th base. That tends to be fairly normal, as given it's 15 minutes in and we have 5 bases, it's certainly an uncommon level of macro, but Vibe making it look easy here. 5 bases, 15 minutes, 1 base every 3 minutes. A little bit obscene, but doing a great job here of dividing Desrow's forces and stalling him quite significantly. These Mutalisks going to continue to be a pain. We actually have a few Corruptor here, and this is one of the strategies Protoss players can try to employ to defeat the Phoenix. The Corruptors can soak up a lot of the damage while the Mutalisks sit safely behind them. But a big Zergling counterattack making its way all the way into the main base. Certainly a great move there from Vibe, and now re-threatening the 3rd base with his Mutalisk and Corruptor Ball. These Corruptors capable of attacking either the Phoenix or the Colossi. Desrow having to be very careful here not to throw away any units. The Mutalisks more than capable of hiding behind these. The Phoenix taking a lot of damage now, as the Mutalisks are able to sweep around and pick off the more vulnerable units. Things like the Sentries, certainly going to be heavy loss of gas units there. Corruptor's actually taking the Colossus down as well, and this is proving to be very providential for Vibe, getting a massively favourable exchange. There's still 3,000 resources behind, but as you can see in the income tab, a significant gas advantage, almost double the gas being harvested for Vibe than Desrow's managing to bring in the moment. We actually have base number 6 on the way with 2 gas guys. This is sort of a little reminiscent of what we saw in the Scarlet versus Gung Fu Panda games some time ago that we cast. They were from, I believe, one of the Kaspersky arenas several months back. Scarlet just went for this power expand mode, and Protoss found it very difficult to move out and capitalize on any advantages that were gained. Even trading inefficiently, the Zerg player was able to just muscle over the top repetitively, distracting with the very quick units like Zergling Mutalisk. So interesting sort of style whereby they aren't trying to be cost effective. You can see we still have some Zerglings burrowed in the main, so great move from Vibe here, going to be able to unburrow them at an opportune moment. These Mutalisks continuing to do damage here as the Corruptors tank a lot of the firepower. I like this choice from Vibe. He's using the Corruptors actively, not just to tank the Phoenix, but to tank everything for the Mutalisks. The Mutalisks very soft and squishy. Surprised that we haven't seen these Zerglings unburrow as of yet. Another Zergling attack harassing the 3rd base, and we can see that Desrow is starting to struggle here as Vibe picks him apart with his multitasking. We have an attack going on here at the natural expansion, the capacity for an attack in the main and an attack in the 3rd base if he so desires. So that 3rd base much more heavily defended with all of the Stalkers sitting there. Stalkers being forced to pull back for the threat at the natural base, but then the Zerglings are able to streak in here into the 3rd base. The Photon Cannon's buying a little bit of time for these Zerglings. The Zealots also going to town there, getting 3 and 4 kills each, so certainly trying to give their life for an hire in an attempt to stave off this relentless Zerg aggression. But Root Vibe making it look easy here in game number 3 as he picks apart Desrow in a tenacious display of both macro and micro. You look at the units tab and Vibe is almost perpetually maxed out in this game. We can see that Desrow's been picked apart back to 140 supply, and Vibe just relentlessly macro. We have base number 6 on the way at the 20-minute mark, so just phenomenal gas income, almost 1400 gas a minute, which is just extortionate amount of gas. The Mutalisk ball incredibly large now, 23 Mutalisks still in play in spite of casualties suffered. And these things trying desperately to get an edge here, but the Corruptor's just buying all the time that Desrow needs, and a large Zergling counterattack in the natural expansion is going to seal it out. So GG for Desrow, unfortunately going to go down this series 2-1. Vibe will of course have an opportunity to progress into the winners match and verse Minigun in the winners match there, and we may well cast that, or we may cast a losers match, which I'll spoil for you now, is going to be between Desrow and QXE. So we'll have a bit of a look and see which of those games. I've got to tell you, I'm partial to casting Desrow versus QXE. We've had some fantastic Protoss versus Terran in the last couple of days, and QXE is certainly one of my favourite Terran players to watch and cast. So I think the next series we cast is going to be Desrow versus QXE. So hope you guys are in the mood for some more killer StarCraft. That'll be coming up right after the break. So tune in here on Aussie StarCraft. Thanks, guys.